Hello, so this is the first mission in the series, looking at Operation Overlord or the D-Day landings. And this one itself takes place early in the hours morning of June 6, 1944. So it's the actual day of D-Day, and it's called the Bridge at Varaville. What we play as is a 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion, which were part of the airdrops to the east of the sort of beach landings. And I just talked through this situation and the briefing, just to give an idea of what happens. So, situation 0600, 6th of June 1944, Varaville. 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion, 6th British Airborne Division, has parachuted into Normandy in preparation for the D-Day invasion. C Company is tasked with seizing several key objectives in and around the village of Varaville, including the bridge over the Diviet River, which must be destroyed to prevent German forces from reaching the invasion beaches. So if we look up here, we've got the actual invasion beach landing zone. And the purpose of the airborne forces, from a very basic understanding, is sort of preventing German reinforcements flooding in to actually repel the beach landings. So it's all about blowing bridges, holding bridges, and preventing this German pushing them off the beaches back into the channel. Mission. 4 Platoon C Company 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion is to seize and hold the bridge and its approaches until engineers arrive to destroy it. Friendly forces, your force consists of elements of 4 platoon. Unfortunately, the battalion was spread far and wide during the drop, so you will have to make do with the force you have. Enemy forces, the enemy defending unit in your area is believed to be elements of the 711th Infantry Division 15th Army. So, a couple of objectives. We need to occupy the guardhouse, touch the manor house, touch the bridge, and we're aiming to cause more than 30% casualties on the enemy and keep our casualties below 50%. Now, for transparency, I will say I have already played this through once. Part of the reason I'm re-recording it is because I completely messed up the audio. But I'm going to play through similarly. I have to admit there will be elements that I will adapt based on what I learnt the first playthrough. But in terms of the map itself, we've got this, I think it was Diviet River, bridge, manor house, and the guardhouse. Our drop zone is to the northwest, and then the enemy forces are expected to be patrolling around the guardhouse area in Varaville. And then this is the actual ground that we're facing. So like I say, Diviet River, bridge, guardhouse, manor house. Initially, so the first time round, I ran sort of manor house, bridge, guardhouse. So we set a base of fire here, attempted to sort of flank along this hedgerow, thinking that there was a crossing point here. That wasn't. TAC AI took over and took us over the bridge anyway. Took the guardhouse, and then it was, like the briefing says, defensive. So we want to hold the bridge and guardhouse. Initially, there was a concern about the German HQ, so if they send a QRF down this road. Relatively open, I mean, there's hedgerows, it's not the best thing, but that was the first concern. And the second concern, which, like I say, I've played it through, and I know what happens. My concern was these high crops to the east. So when we look at sort of ground level, you've got this open ground leading up, and then you hit these sort of chest-high crops, which gives you very good concealment. leading up to the actual area, and then there's these ever so slight micro terrain ridge lines, and so I think the metal roads are ever so slightly raised points that you might see along here. So the actual road is ever so slightly raised from the actual crop fields, and then micro terrain. So, for example, this ditch that you've got leading up to the guardhouse provides some concealment from those actual firing points in there. So yeah, that was my concern, is these sort of ridge lines and this high crops. Now what I'm going to do is similar to the first playthrough. I'm going to take the manor house, assault the guardhouse. This time round I've spotted this crossing point, so I will probably break off an assault element to cross that way, with manor house sort of giving this 90-degree angle fire and maneuver. But once I've actually taken the guardhouse, I'm gonna reorganize on the guardhouse and push out some scouts. So last time my approach to try and get round this concern was to push up to this edge here, push up towards the sort of second floor of this. I didn't get that far. These were reasonably successful, but there was a lot of light machine guns, so MG42 firing on them, and this got bumped in the fields. So this time round, and this is a good opportunity to look at the actual forces, this time round I'm going to slight change in terms of once we've reorged here, pushing out scouts as tripwires, but holding the guardhouse more closely. So in terms of the actual force, so it's an understrength platoon. Instead of the full company, you get just 4 platoon. And that's basically the HQ section and 2 understrength sections themselves. The firepower we're looking at is automatic weapons, so submachine guns, Stens, Bren guns, marksmen, and in this case we've got a one section's got a mortar. Now it's the way you can use this, so it's only really got smoke bombs, and that's to support assault, so it's not necessarily high explosives in the offensive role or trying to destroy. It's smoke for maneuver, I suppose. On top of that, you've got demo charges, and generally, so we've got veteran, regular. They're typical airborne forces, so high morale, high experience, good condition generally. So you can see down here some of these characteristics, and they're good assault force. Now, in terms of little ground rules that I'm going to try and do for generally for these series is, whilst I've got this deployment zone, what I'm going to try and do is where I start is where I start, and I just have to deal with it. I will break out the sections, so in terms of my plan to take the manor house and then guardhouse, I am going to split into initially assault sections with gun groups. So we've got gun group with a Bren, gun group with a Bren and the mortar. Take the manor house, push those guns up to the manor house to fire onto the guardhouse itself, and the remaining assault force, so all the Sten guns and good stuff, push round, wade the river, push up through the field, give it a bit of fire, and then once they're suppressed, go on to the guardhouse. From there, like I say, reorganize. So whatever we've got left, we reorganize on the guardhouse, pushing out small scout sections into the fields to actually catch any Germans on the counter-attack. The only thing that I am considering right now is it is a bit cheeky because it's playing with hindsight. You're no longer concerned about QRF from the German HQ, but I think that might be able to cover that by having. So what I'll probably do back at ground level is personally I'd like to have something on this sort of reverse slope to catch anything that comes over the hill. They might be able to defend from both directions. So maybe possibly send something here. It can catch them on the hill. If there was a QRF, it could catch them coming up the road. And then I think you do have to have occupying the guardhouse. So one section potentially here, one section in the guardhouse. And that's probably how I'll try and play it. So I'm not completely playing with hindsight and the benefit of the knowledge. I suppose the very final thing to look at is the first time round so whilst we've got the idea of Germans might come from east or west, we also had the idea that there may be dribs and drabs turn up from the drop zone, so come into there. I can cover that at the very end of the video where we look at the actual battle itself in real life to understand what the challenge was in real life. So this is the first turn and off we go. Now, similar to the first approach, what I've actually got them doing is the hunt command. So this is a cautious approach up to the manor house, trying to remain stealthy. It's slightly faster than the normal walking pace, and it's sort of expecting contact. It is also taking. So I think there's an excellent video where there's a guy going through all the different movement commands, which I'll probably try and link in the description because I really liked his videos, and basically covers the hunt command is on top of being faster than walk, more tactical. It's also stealthy, so they take precautions not to be noisy. There is a fallout from that, which I believe is they tire more quickly because it's intense on them to actually cautiously. They're not just tabbing along. They have to take great effort to remain fast, nimble, quiet, all these things. So it gives them an additional stress in terms of their ready status. So this is the initial, very first contact that we make. I'm pushing up one section to the edge of the manor house, and then they're going to sneak up into the building. And for what actually happens is they make contact. So it looks like a little HQ officer team living in the manor house rush about. When they hear them, gun groups, everything opens up basically because they're all focused on the manor house. And yeah, I'll just press play. Looks like we get the guardhouse gets alerted as well. There may still be someone in the manor house from the looks of things, because we've taken 2 casualties now. So, just a quick update in terms of what's going on. So we're down 2 men who are wounded. We've got the HQ element trying to provide first aid. And then we've got the 2 gun groups set up in the manor house, ready to suppress the guardhouse itself, because the assault sections we've managed to cross the river. And what I want to do now is push them up to this sort of ditch line, give some suppressive fire, and then assault into the actual guardhouse before reorganizing on the guardhouse. I'll just get these guys ready to start pushing up to the ditch, I reckon. Some of this I might skip through a little bit. So sometimes if it's quiet moments like this, I think you can get away with skipping and rewinding when you do hit something. So another quick update just before we assault the guardhouse. We stabilised the 2 casualties. These guys uneventfully have made it up to the ditch. What I'm going to probably do is get them to hold there for 30 seconds while these give. I'll set that up now. So these lads can give their 30 seconds of fire. I think these can go noisy. I'll cautiously do about 20 seconds before they rush the actual building itself. So something like this. This could go completely wrong. It typically does. But I think they can give a bit of fire as well. So base of fire, giving it a bit of suppression. These guys get into position, rush the guardhouse, and see what happens from there. For me that was actually quite successful. So yeah, it looks like we got a good amount of suppression. We got these guys overwhelmed, and yeah, that worked out really well for once. So what I'm going to do now, reorganize on the bridge. We'll get our touch objective. Sorry, reorganize on the guardhouse. We'll get our touch objective for the bridge, and then once the sections are all stabilized again, we'll detach some scouts to move out to the edge. I think I am going to go for like a rear slope defense here, and then one section holding the guardhouse with the HQ. So this is where we've reorganised at the guardhouse. I'm splitting off a scout team to sort of set up in this field. Hopefully, a reasonable amount of they can pick up the audio from either direction, so they can hear sound contacts potentially. Act as a sort of tripwire this way. We did lose 2 men, so that left 2 section quite light. I'm still going to split off the 2 men for the scouts. 2 sections going to remain in the guardhouse with the platoon HQ, so that gives us 6 men in the guardhouse. And then the 4 men from 1 section I'm going to push out this direction, because they've got the mortar, they've got a nice little spread of different weapons that they can set up, and I think they've got an alright view. Not perfect, but something on this reverse slope defense for anything that comes this side. We will see. Like I said, last time this went badly wrong. With any luck, this approach is slightly better. The second these guys make contact, I will probably push them back to the guardhouse to defend with the rest of 2 sections. So that's 5 men there plus the 3 men from the HQ. We'll see how it goes. So that didn't take too long. I skipped a few turns there just to rush the counter-attack. And in turn, it looks like, 6. We've got the German counter-attack sneaking up on the southern side of the road. Here we go. So the sound contacts are coming through the southern crop field. We might be able to give a little we'll find out in 30 seconds. They might get a little ambush, might not, but they're going to have to leg it back, I'd say. It's the same problem. So these guys have not spotted them coming in through these fields. It looks like we've got some in the ditch, some here. What I might do, the problem is, and again it's a bit gamey, we can get them to put fire down that way. How much risk? I mean, combat mission will not have friendly fire going that way with this small arms caliber, so it won't affect these guys, but it might suppress them. Can't recall. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do, so they're roughly here, what I'm going to do, terrible, something like this. So give them a burst of fire, give them a burst of fire, and then peg it. The rest can stay where they are, and we'll see what happens. So we're not done too badly in that little bit of an ambush. So I think no casualties. Took 1 wounded, hopefully. Don't know if they got any. We'll have a closer look quick. But it looks like, I mean, they're still pushing up on us. I think a lot of this will be firing into the dark. Just watch that back quick, see what happened here. Just 1, 2, 3. Not bad. Four. I'm not sure how big a German squad is, but certainly wiped 4 there. Did these guys get anyone? So don't know with them. They may have just suppressed them, they may not. They got a grenade out. It looks like they're firing off to the wrong side. There is a machine gun set up here, which has good arcs this direction, but yeah. So, 2 sections form back up, reorganised on the guardhouse. 1 section still in the reverse slope. 1 man incapacitated in the HQ. So it's looks like maybe the platoon sergeant or something. Yeah. So at the moment this is going far more successfully than the first playthrough that I had. So like I say, I was wiped out pretty much in dribs and drabs the first time round. I pushed up too far. Yeah, same problem with this machine gun, which just decimated anything that I tried to ambush in the fields. And in first playthrough, what I ended up having to do was fall back to the guardhouse, fall back to the manor house with a gun group, trying to keep people off the guardhouse. And eventually it got so bad, like my ammunition was down to the last 2 Bren mags. I pushed back to the church. So in the first playthrough, this time doing well for ammunition. Still got this 1 casualty. Something down here shooting into the guardhouse. Most of the sound contacts coming from here or here. What I'm going to do is get these guys to bound up in pairs a bit further up so they can actually help us. So I think that gives them better arcs. I think the guardhouse section, I'm going to try and face to the south east, so down this direction. I'll let the HQ sort of respond as and where. So what they typically do in combat mission is they run from window to window as a response to incoming fire or what have you. But I think that's my plan for this. Go. Yeah, another very lucky turn. I think that one gave me a little bit of a scare. It looks like they bumped each other in the field. But I think they managed to get, because they were bounding forward, they managed to get... Yeah, they took out pair. And then this guy lobs a potato masher. This guy catches some frag. Or catches some explosion. And to the south, did I miss anything down here? So made the actual contact. Put that on for a sec. Took out one at least. Yeah. Okay. So all I'm gonna do is get these, stop bounding, deal with the guy you've got there. These guys fire into that previous position. These guys fire into this ditch. Just very small fire commands, like 15 seconds. These guys have an actual target, so they have a target. But yeah, press play. So, this time round, far better. We had 3 wounded, 11 men are good, and we managed to achieve the objectives this time round. So, we hold the guardhouse, we touched the manor and bridge, we kept our casualties to a minimum whilst inflicting casualties on the Germans. And then, yeah, so it looks like, I certainly saw partway through there was must have been this guy, made a beeline back for the wood edge. These guys legged it. I think this guy must have legged it after his squad get after his squad got shot up in the ditch. Looks like these guys must have been coming from this direction and then retreated back to this position. And then I took out the actual company headquarters. So that's a far, far better outcome of the actual mission. And what I'll probably do to follow this up is to show the alternative outcome where it didn't go to plan, and then do a little bit on the actual history of the events of what actually happened at Varaville for the Canadians, because it is quite similar to what happened here. And like I say, the first attempt I failed. This attempt succeeded, but it closely matches the sort of true to life experience, because there was an understrength platoon that basically forced a German company to surrender. But yeah, I'll come on to that in the next bit. So, did not go well for me. Total defeat, 6 men killed, 2 wounded, 6 okay. We managed to get 8 of them, 6 wounded, captured 1, 26 of them are good. They hold the guardhouse and the manor house. They've got acceptable casualties for us and themselves. I have the opposite. So I touched the bridge, I touched the manor house. Guardhouse was lost. Didn't inflict enough casualties. Suffered too many friendly casualties. In terms of what I was actually up against, so it's a company-sized group. Did some real damage to the first squad. Second squad looks unscathed. Third squad looks unscathed, but I've got a feeling, I don't know if it does it, but I have a feeling I distinctly remember taking out 2 of their guys at this wood edge, so potentially they stopped to administer first aid, and that's why it's a smaller looking squad than this one, possibly. It's down, yeah, it's down 2 men, so I think that might have happened. Didn't touch the Panzerschreck. Yeah, very difficult mission. And in terms of the condition of my force, pretty much as before. So you've got reasonable amount of 303. The HQ is not in a bad state, but technically am I dead? So I think I'm dead, basically. The one section is down to a single Bren mag and a bag full of 9mm that's useless. Same with 2 sections. So 2 section has maybe 1.5 magazines. Plenty of 9mm. Smoke. Didn't use any smoke. Don't know how I could have used it offensively. But yeah, very, very difficult mission that. So I might go and see what actually happened in real life. So gone away and had a quick Google for what actually happened. I found this article. So it's the battle for the village of Varaville. It's a little article that's got some excerpts from a book called Out of the Clouds, the history of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion. And it pretty much covers the same story. So C Company, I suppose I'll read the first bit because it explains what they were there to do. Except the fact they were successful, which given it's a formidable task. So C Company had been given the task of clearing out the enemy garrison at Varaville. The gun emplacement at the road near the chateau, just east of Varaville, the destruction of the bridge over the Diviet River, so that's what we had to do, and the radio transmitter station near Varaville as well. Given the size of the force represented by C Company, the undertaking was formidable. Yeah, can agree with that. At the Chateau de Varaville, a 75mm anti-tank gun and fortifications, which included bunkers and trenches, had been established to control the road intersection. This was manned by a much larger force than had been anticipated, as was the estimated number of enemy troops in Varaville itself. The scattered drop of C Company only served to exacerbate the problem, facing a small group that landed in the immediate area. Only 30 all ranks landed on the drop zone, the remainder being distributed as far as 10 miles. That's a big old tab to get to the actual... Yeah, and so the article carries on a bit further down and explains some of the individuals actually involved in the operation. I don't have access to the book. I don't think it actually mentions 4 platoon, but it explains the exact same problem across the company, basically. So a bit later on you get... Here you go. Things were clearly not going according to plan. By half midnight, over 100 men were expected to be at the rendezvous. Instead, they had 15. The plan called for heavily armed troops with machine gun crew, heavy mortars and Bangalore torpedoes, but the little band had only 1 Piat, 3 Sten guns, 8 rifles, and a pistol. Yeah. So yeah, the article goes on. It covers the actual action of the paras. They blow the bridge, and they manage to get the much larger German force to surrender. And throughout, it's just a constant sort of story of scattered parachute drops. So there's a tiny force. At one point, there's sort of friendly fire with Allied aircraft, I believe. But yeah, C Company successfully captures the enemy position, secures Varaville, destroys the bridge, captures Germans, and it's pretty mad to see what was achieved. I have to say, some of it's quite sad as well. So this is day 1 of the battle, and it is a full-blown war. We learn of people within the company who died, and you can actually look those people up, their actual little obituaries. So I suppose as an example, these are some of the men who fought the Battle of Varaville, and they include people who died there or died later of their wounds. And because of archiving and newspaper clippings and everything that exists, you can see these people and their stories, and some of it's quite tragic. So this chap on the top right here, Peter, you can see his gravesite, you can see the casualty notification documents, and you can see some of the last letters that he wrote to his family. So I think I'll finish on this letter that he wrote and echo his closing. I won't say goodbye, just so long.